everybody, welcome back. Episode number 12, Canadian Hustlers. We are here today with Steve and Dave from Inside You. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
Good to be
It's
here.
good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
I guess,
definitely.
You want to start with a little bit of background?
Well, this guy over here is my business partner, Steve Velto.
Background about yourself, hey? Not me.
Yeah, but I will introduce you too.
Yeah.
So I come to the wellness industry through a long and circuitous route. I started with computer science in 1994, University of Waterloo. I didn't stay there. I decided to go into something else after that. And then through a series of other things, I've ended up being a personal trainer in 2004. That led me into the wellness industry, and about 5 years later, Steve opened the doors of Inside You at 682 Peel Street in Woodstock. And about 2 years later, we were collaborating.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about you?
So I'm a university dropout. I went to Laurier. Thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I walked out one day and had enough of that. I just didn't want to be in a cubicle for the rest of my life, and I just wasn't happy there. So I worked in construction for about 8 years to pay the bills, and then after my wife and I got married, I was looking for another job, and then I was working out at the gym one time with a friend of mine, and he mentioned that his wife was just graduating as a nutritionist. So
Okay.
I was like, I have no idea.
But before that, he was going to open up a bakery.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Those are really big, right?
So I was going to open up a bakery and cook like whole wheat bread, and this was
Okay.
right in 2008 when everybody wanted to go like gluten free. So
Right.
it wasn't good timing.
Yeah.
And then he figured out that bakers had to get up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to
I
do
had
that.
enough vision to see that would be a lot of work now.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So what did you know about the industry going in, like the health food
Absolutely
industry?
nothing.
That's interesting.
I don't even know why I had this. So I had this idea in my head, like, let's start a health food store together. And I actually cannot tell you this to this day why I said that. So what I did is I got online. I was like, there has to be a trade association or something, right?
Yeah.
So there's a show in Toronto. You had to be a business in order to get into this show. So I registered a fake name, Oxford Health Supplies. And then Danielle, this was Danielle Van Wyk. We went to Toronto for the day and we did our market research just walking around the show.
Yeah.
And the two things I learned there, I came back with is, number one, the people were really nice. You could tell like everybody in the building was nice. They're there for the right reason.
Yeah.
And then number two, you could see that the industry was growing. So, and then I visited one store in London, and I bought a tube of toothpaste at another store, and then mortgaged my house and quit my job.
Everything done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said gluten-free was big at that time.
Yeah.
Was that something that you started incorporating at first in the business as well, or what was kind of the route you want to take at that time?
Not really. We just at the beginning you start up and you really have no idea what people are looking for.
Right.
So you order a bunch of lines of, food products and supplements, and, you take some advice of what's good quality. And then at the beginning, you really, I found at the beginning we were trying to like sell something or tell people what to do. And then after a while you learn to listen. You actually you have to listen to what your customers will actually want to buy and what they need help with. So, and over time you learn, which brands kind of align with your company and which ones you like to use. And
Makes sense.
One of the things I'll comment on, it's really interesting from my own entrepreneurial experience, is that entrepreneurs often have a sense of things that sometimes is difficult to explain. So you hear Steve's narrative about, I don't know really why I wanted to do it. There wasn't some concrete thing, but in the middle of your consciousness, you feel it. You're like, there's an opportunity here that I need to pursue. I need to massage and interact with it a little bit and then see if there's something on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And of course, every entrepreneur knows, if you're entrepreneurially minded, there is ambiguity, there's risk, but there's also a doubling down on the investment of yourself. That's the greatest investment that you can make when you're an entrepreneur, is keep investing in yourself. And then once you blossom in a sense, then you can onboard other people to become part of that team, which is exactly what happened with us.
Yeah, and I remember too, like, I know you've, since we're cousins, right? So I remember when you got into the business, dude, you were doing a lot of research. Like a lot of research on every product that came in the store.
Yeah.
it was definitely a learning curve. We had conversations about it back then too, and
Yeah, Danielle actually reminded me a couple of years later. So I had no experience in business, none whatsoever, no experience in retail, and no experience in health. And so I really didn't know anything.
So the idea just came out of the blue.
Yeah,
It was just
yeah. We bought that house in Woodstock in November. It took a year to get the permits. Basically, quit my job in August, and then by Christmas we were ready to go. And then we started January 2nd the next year. So I had to be really stubborn to kind of see it through in order to do it right.
Yeah.
But so we opened January 2nd, 2009. And then Danielle reminded me this years later. She's like, yeah, we got everything ready. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and you pulled me aside and you said, okay, now show me what some of this stuff does.
No clue.
Opening
Yeah.
opening day.
No clue.
Opening day.
Yeah.
But Danielle was the expert. So
You had someone who had an understanding
yeah.
of.
So you have to know your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, then hire other people to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So Danielle was involved from the get-go. She was a nutritionist.
Yeah.
She's still in the business.
No, so she was partner in a company, and then also she had her own little company kind of working out of the office where she did nutrition and allergy testing and those kind of things. So that was kind of like made our company legitimate at the beginning. Right. And then over time, we bought her out about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's, it's kind of a long story, but you're kind of, your path goes this way, and then somebody else's path goes that way. And Danielle went on a couple mission trips as well, and she's a family, and really didn't have the time and the energy to put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the best for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So when did you come on board?
Well, it's an interesting story how I ended up meeting this guy. I started writing in the local newspaper in the Oxford Review in 2004 when I started being a personal trainer. And someone just said to me, oh, Dave, no one's writing a fitness and wellness, a health and wellness column in the Oxford Review.
Yeah.
You should go down there. So, being incredibly naive, I just literally walked down to the Sentinel Review office in Woodstock, and I was like, is the editor in? So the editor comes down and says, what's happening? And I'm like, you don't have a health and fitness column in your newspaper here. Could I write one? So he said, send me a piece of your work and then I'll read it and see how, whatever. So I sent him 2 pieces and he said, oh, this is really good. We're going to publish this in January. And that was in the early December at the time. So then I published the piece. That got me known in the community because I wrote about 400 articles over 10 years. And one of my clients at the time, I had recommended a particular type of protein. And so when I was back at her house training, I said, oh, what's that protein over there? I don't recognize that. And she was like, oh, Steve down at Inside You.
You always tell the story wrong. Oh, I know. Oh, sorry.
No, so what, do I always mix it up?
No. You're gonna say Steve sold me something else.
No. I was going to say, well, I mean, my recollection of it is that, he had made a different, whatever. So then I went down there. Is this right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
That's what we're going with.
So I went to the store. I wanted to meet this guy and talk about the protein because I was kind of like the de facto expert. Not that I was the expert, but I was writing about it in the newspaper.
right.
So you get to be this little media kind of micro personality.
Yeah.
So I go down there and I'm like, so I recommended this to so-and-so and you recommended this. And he's like, well, this is the reason. It's New Zealand, it's this, it's grass-fed, it's probably a little bit of a better product. So he educated me on that, which was really important to me. So then we started to cross paths a little bit. And there was one thing about Inside You at the time that really irritated me. The logo sucked. It was so terrible. It was like a big blue horseshoe, and you still have that picture or whatever of the old sign made out of wood. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
It was a U with the sun in the middle.
Yeah, you with the sun in the middle, and it said Inside, and I was like, oh, the colors are wrong, everything's wrong, and the optics are wrong. It doesn't tell me anything about the business.
Right.
So I hunkered down, and I taught myself how to use Illustrator and learned a little bit of design language, and I designed a logo, the current logo that we use today.
Nice.
And I had business cards made, I put Steve's name on them, and I brought them in one day, and I'm like, here's your new brand, buddy. I feel better about this. I'll shop here now if you use this branding. So that was the beginning of the relationship, and as Steve describes it, which he'll probably tell you in a second, it's very interesting when you're an entrepreneur in that when people make themselves useful, which is what you'll say, and try to solve problems that you might not see, that becomes very attractive in the team that you're trying to build.
Sure.
And that was the first piece that kind of opened the idea that we could be collaborators.
You did it. You just did it because you just wanted to give. It wasn't.
I did it
it wasn't
because I
for the
wanted to
intention
give.
of-
No, it was just irritating him
Yeah.
mostly.
And it also irritated me, right?
It's under the premise that you just want to give, and if nothing in
100%.
return, and then it.
Yeah.
No, I was actually expecting nothing in return. And, so to your point, I wasn't receiving a discount. I was getting nothing free from the store. I shopped there. I paid the money that I was going to pay, et cetera, et cetera. So there was no incentive for me to do that.
Yeah.
I did it because I felt it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then the second piece that happened, which was really interesting, was this guy got a scratch in his eyeball, corneal scratch, right? Didn't you? From whatever it was. And I was shopping there at the store one day, and he's like, the person that usually looks after, when I got to go to the Ivy Institute, get my eyes looked at in London. I got no one to watch the store. And I thought to myself, I know a little bit about most of the products that are in here. Like, why don't I do it?
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, okay. Goes behind the counter, gets me a key, gives it to me, shows me how all the POS systems work, shows me the lock, the code, and he says, see you on Thursday, or I won't see you, but you're running this thing. So I showed up, and that was the beginning.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Back to that point, and I think that's a really interesting point from an entrepreneurial perspective. First, writing in the columns,
Yes,
something you did probably for free.
100% for
You get
free.
paid for it.
Actually, that's what the editor told me when I walked in 2004. He's like, we're not paying for original content anymore. So
Yeah.
I said, you're welcome to do it, but you're not going to get the $30, $50, or $100 we used to pay per article. Done.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to do it anyways.
Which created your brand.
And the backstory to that, super interesting. So I'll digress for 2 seconds for your audience about what you need to do as an entrepreneur. I failed English 6 times. 3 times in high, and this is real. Like my transcript shows this. 3 times in high school, 3 times in university. And I went on to be a columnist. So what this tells you is it doesn't matter if you have a weakness or a strength. You can always double down and work on those things to get better. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're not good talking in front of people, you're not a good doing this or doing that,
Yeah.
you can get better.
Give it
You
time,
have the,
yeah.
you have,
Yeah.
but you have to practice. You have
Yes,
to do
you
it.
definitely have to.
You have to
You have to do it.
Yeah. I just read a book by David Goggins. I don't know if you read that book or not. He just came out. He same thing. He couldn't swim, and he was in the Marines. Like he's a horror. He's like, I would sink all the time, and he just kept going and kept going. And
Right.
He went through the Marines like 3 times in a row, and he finally made it through.
Yeah.
Persistence.
Just persistence,
Yeah.
right? So this goes to show, and there's a lot of swimming in Marines.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a big part of it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So that was in how long was this ago?
Well, it was 2011, basically, I think, when that logo
part, yeah.
piece happened.
Yeah.
And then we slowly, started to understand the nature of the collaboration and everything. And by 2013, we wanted to get part of a buyers group called the Health First Network. So we're part of that now. And it's a really interesting arc about what could happen. We didn't have the sales at the time, we weren't there, and they wanted the store to be a destination location. It's a big buyers group, so you get a significant discount when you buy in bulk with a whole bunch of people across
Yeah.
Canada. And so Steve asked me to join him in February of 2013 to drive down to the head office and pitch them for the 3rd time.
Okay.
And so we went down there, and long story short, about an hour and a half later, we were invited to join the network. Even though we didn't hit the absolute criteria, I think they had a good sense that we weren't kidding around.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
we were going to build this with or without them.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to be part of that because there's, as you've said so many times, you can go faster alone, but you go farther together.
Oh, for sure.
And we
Oh, yes.
wanted that, that's where that collaborative
And
piece
that's
comes
a good
from.
point you come to that too with people hiring people that accent your weaknesses.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. You got to fill the gaps, right?
Yeah.
And you can't do everything.
Just to that point, I always tell Dave 80%. So
Yeah.
for me, if you can do it 80% as good as me,
Yeah.
then I'll let you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually I have a good, obviously you're aiming for people who can do it better than you.
Yeah.
You get to that 80%.
Yeah.
And then if you're, if things work out, they end up being, 110%. But I was telling you for like 2 years, I couldn't get Dave to let other people do things. For 2 years, 80% no. And then one day I said 85%. It was like, bing, right away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
85.
I'm a little bit of a perfectionist
Yeah.
at times about certain things.
Yeah.
It's hard to let go of things too, as an entrepreneur. I think you
Yeah.
create something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's hard to give other people control of that.
Yeah.
Because inevitably, it always kind of
And I
takes
think
a hit a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I think that
before they figure out what they're doing on their side of it,
Yeah.
it takes time to get back to where you were.
I think that Steve's insight into some things is incredibly valuable. I've certainly learned a lot from him. And one of the things that he taught me was that if someone can do it 80% as good as you or 85% as good as you can let go of the reins. But B, what he was really saying was this: if someone can do it at 10 out of 10, like let me put it a different way. If someone's on your team, but they're not the owner or whatever, you can't expect them to give a 10 out of 10 effort. It's not the same thing. 80% is nice and high. You're going to get good work from that, and you're going to have a good collaboration.
But you have to start with little things. So one time I was driving back from Toronto, and I was like, there's one thing I didn't want to give up, is I was cutting my own grass at home. Okay. I said put new sod in, and I was like, I want to be no weeds, and I want it perfect, right? Yeah. And I was like, this is every week you have to look at what you're doing and say, is there something that I don't like doing, or is there something that somebody else can do better? And I didn't I was spending an hour a week cutting grass, and my son was, I think, 7 or 8 at the time. So I just didn't trust him with the grass. So I got home, I put him on the empty lot next door, and he cut that. And he was done in like 20 minutes. And he's like, okay, Dad. And he's ready to go. He wanted to cut more grass. So I was like, all right, get over there. And then he's been cutting grass for the last 5 years. Yep. Hour a day, 52 hours a year.
Adds up?
Yep. Just like that.
But it's hard to give over the control.
Yeah, you start little.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
And you're building trust at the same time, right? You want to know that the person that you're working with can actually execute on that. Yeah. And then if you can't execute on it, then you got to figure out what that gap is. Business and entrepreneurism really has one fundamental tenet: it's solving problems. Yeah. So you become an incredibly competent either a problem solver yourself, or you find people that will help you solve that problem. Yeah. That's the critical thing about entrepreneurism I think people miss. They want pay dirt, they want money, they want this big business, they want all these other things. Right. But just making sure that you understand why you're doing it in the first place is something that sometimes people can lose sight of.
Yeah. Well, that goes from a business model even.
Absolutely.
Like if you're not solving anything, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Right? And then,
are you just riding a stationary bike and wasting energy and not going anywhere? Yeah, absolutely.
There was another part. One of the other reasons I never really tell Dave this, but one of the reasons why.
So he's going to tell me on camera, actually, on a podcast. Okay.
One of the biggest reasons why he works for Inside You or partner Inside You, because I didn't really want to work against him. Okay, so it's a lot easier to have people like this closer to you and work with them than just to fight all the time against them. Yeah. Makes your life easier. And a lot of people, they are they have Steve's Plumbing and so-and-so's this. And no, just you got to have a good name and have make a bigger pie and everybody can eat from the same pie rather than you have my pie, you my pie.
Yeah, and I think the point here is that there is a time and a place to compete, but there's a time and a place to collaborate too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you have to lower the exposure of your ego and say, okay, let's collaborate, because I myself am probably not the best team to make this happen. I need more people.
Yeah. Well, competition is comparing yourself to someone else. Right. Right? And at the moment you think about either dominating the industry or collaborating, well, a new door goes open. Yeah. There's so much more opportunity. Just, hey, can I be better than
And the wellness business is very warm to collaboration. Yes. That's another thing.
So we've interviewed a few people, and they're a lot more open to that kind of stuff. And we've interviewed other people where their businesses are not open to it. Yeah. So
and even to this kind of stuff, really, media and podcasts and content in general. I think the health and the beauty industry is fairly
open to it.
Yeah.
Probably the most open industry towards those kind of platforms. Yeah. So, you're both partners in it now. Yeah. That's been 7 years.
Close.
5 years?
Six. Yeah. So 2013 was kind of the official date. Yeah. And so here we are, literally about 6 years and 5 months.
So where did you where were you at when you joined in?
Where was I at? Yeah. I was working essentially as a wellness consultant at the time, and I was writing in the newspaper. That was the main thing that I was doing. I was reaching the end of that arc of my life, though, in the context of I was looking for something else potentially, but not looking specifically, but being open to a world of possibilities. Absolutely. And so when the opportunity to
he was basically the best personal trainer in Oxford County. Like, no offense to anybody else who's personal trainers, but you tried to be the best.
Well, and I was also the pro trainer for Southwestern Ontario. So at that time, all the trainers that were anywhere in Southwestern Ontario who had gone through CanFit Pro and had their professional certification, they went, like, I taught them and certified them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did that for 10 years.
Yeah.
So then we walked around a new building,
Yes.
the one we currently just moved into, and we brainstormed in that building. And
That was in 2013 too, right? Yeah.
So we put an offer in on that building at that time, and this is actually funny in the real estate tie. That building, the real estate actually is what really made us actually say, okay, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of times real estate is limiting, but we saw potential and possibility, all the different things we could do in that building. We're like, okay, Dave decided, he basically, because of that, you decided to go to school.
Yeah, right.
To become a naturopathic doctor. And I was like, okay, he's going to go off to school. I probably have to bring him in to be a part of this business. Otherwise, he's never coming back to the area.
Awesome.
Right? So,
Makes sense.
So from the start, what was the most, how do I say this? What did you use for customer acquisition? Like, was it social media? Was it emails? Was it just outreach?
well, you do a big promo at the beginning, like a grand opening sale, and then mostly at the beginning it was friends and family and referrals. We had about 3 customers a day at the beginning.
Yeah.
I still remember I get so irritated when it snowed at like 10 o'clock in the morning.
This is a really good story. This is a really good story, actually.
It snows at 10 o'clock in the morning, and someone comes at 12, and they can see there's no tire tracks in the driveway.
Yeah. So what do you think he did?
Jump.
Yeah, of course.
And you have to get a walk too. You have to need footprints as well, otherwise, right? And then you gotta actually walk like this, and then walk your feet like that. Yeah. There was.
It's not unlike social in a way where if the post has been out for a little while, are you going to be the first one to like it? But if there's 10 likes, then you're more likely to hit the like button or whatever it is, right? So we're primed like that in a way as humans.
So,
but it's true because
it is true.
In all kinds of sales that I've ever done, like we sold the strawberries and on the farm. People come in groups, and I still to this day do not understand how that works. But it always works that way. You get one, and then 3 people walk in the door.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's never like one, and then another one, and then another. It's never consistent. It's always groups. It's like they drive by and they're like, "Oh, somebody's there. We can go."
Right.
I don't know how that works.
Right.
So, but I never really like to spend a whole lot of money on marketing. Rather take care of the customers you have than always try to pay a lot of money to go find new customers.
Yeah, push for retention as opposed to acquisition.
Yeah.
And I think that's lost in a lot of industries right now too.
Oh,
especially in mine.
Yeah.
They're always talking about lead generation, and get these people in. It's like, well, what about the people you have? What about your down?
Doug Stevens he's written 2 books, and he's called The Retail Profit. And one of the things that he says now is marketing is now exactly in reverse of what it was historically, where you would spend $100,000 on new customer acquisition. You now spend that $10,000 or $100,000 on the original customers that you have, and they become your marketing funnel. So then they potentiate their 10 people, 100 people in their network, which is A, already warm, B, the social proof is built in because you're a trusted source of trusted sources or whatever that is. And now, like, listen, when's the last time you ate at a restaurant just because you just drove by it and you're like, wow, that looks great? No, it's because somebody in your family, it's a recommendation from someone you directly have trust with and that went there and then ate the food and said, actually, it's good. And then what does that do? Now it piques your interest and now you want to go try that restaurant. But are you doing it because you saw the newspaper ad or are you doing it because your best friend said this thing? Right?
But we also use so having a service in the business, is another reason for people to come in. And you use a couple newspaper ads at the beginning we did. But really in 2011 when Dave was writing the newspaper, then we tried a couple little experiments, or mostly Dave did. And
the columns.
Yeah. So one time he lets me know on it was like Wednesday or Thursday. It was like a couple days before the article came out. He's like, Steve, you better buy like a little bit extra green coffee bean. At that time. So I was like, what do you mean a little extra? And so he mostly wrote about health and fitness and working out and nutrition. That he hardly ever was like a sales pitch. Right. But this one, I think, just for your own fun, you really.
I did, but it was like Joe Vincent was this. He was this PhD that wrote a paper about green coffee beans and the thermogenic effect of it. I read the research, or I read the presentation that he gave, and it was fairly compelling. I thought that there, was something that was potentially there. Turns out there was hype associated with it, so in retrospect, I understand that now. But at the time, I wrote a good piece of information, and then when I read it myself, I thought, if I was reading this, it might actually, encourage me to go try it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I went into the store and I'm like, how many do you have on the shelf? And then, he had 3. And then he'll tell the rest of the story.
So you never want to have a marketing campaign where your shelf where you don't have product to back it up, right? So he's obviously worried about that. But one of Dave's gifts is he has the rare ability to to apply research to everyday life, in both written and oral. Yeah. So that's what he really did. He took research that was hot at that time and he applied it. And so I was like, how many? 24? And he's like, yeah, 20. So I think I ended up buying 36 or 48 I'd ordered. And like, we're not selling a lot usually, right? So 3 would usually of anything would last me, be selling like 1 a week at the most of really anything we had in the store. So to go and buy like 36 units of something was a little...
It's crazy.
Yeah. So newspaper comes out at Thursday afternoon and we were sold out by like 4:30 on Thursday afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah. So I ordered another 100 and those were all spoken for by Friday afternoon, like pre-sold. And then so then on Monday morning I called the supplier up and I was like, when can I expect that 100? And I want to place an order for more. And they're like, oh, we actually didn't get that order that you emailed in on Friday.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember you telling us. Oh, that's right.
Like over 100 pre-sold already. I don't have product. So it was 11 o'clock on Monday. I drove up to Guelph so I called and they're like, yeah, they have 400 in stock. So I drove up there. I like set all 400 aside. Hour there, hour back. I came back with 400 and those were all gone by the end of the week.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can see the numbers like that, right?
Yep.
And really what I capitalized on there was the Oz effect at the time. So Dr. Oz had just started a show and he was talking a lot about some of these, the therapeutic, supplement business. And then, so I rode his wave as well at the time. So it wasn't just that, it wasn't one thing, it was a synergy of things, if I can put it that way.
But it's because you build a following.
Oh, absolutely.
At your own expense.
Yes,
right. It wasn't like
right.
you being paid to do it.
Not at all.
And that repays that way.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Absolutely.
People don't do that enough right now.
Yeah.
But we didn't really keep going down that road because we're not just like pushing product. We actually want to help solve problems.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a neat little experiment.
Yeah.
And then after that, when we joined Health First, this retailing network, then we started putting out a flyer. We used their flyer. We put it out once a month, and we distributed about 15,000 kind of on average households. Okay. And you have to hit, like with newspaper and those, you have to hit people once a month, bare minimum, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the first kind of real regular marketing that we did once a month. And you could see it basically double the amount of people that were coming in. So we went from like 2 to 3 new people a day up to like 5 or 6 at that time.
So that really paid off then.
Yeah. So we did that for a while.
And at the time in 2014, I think when we started that flyer program, there that was a way that people acquired information about what sales were going on in their community.
Yeah.
That's transitioned somewhat now to
more electronic now, right?
More electronic. I think that there is a planetary health concern as well. The number of inserts in any given paper, when it's this thick, you have to ask yourself how many trees were cut down in order to do that particular thing.
I never read it.
And that's right. Like,
I literally don't. I grab the paper.
Yeah, and it goes in the recycle. So the energy cost to do those things is something we're very aware of too, because we want to make sure that we have an alliance with wellness. And wellness isn't just about making sure you have enough magnesium. You've got to care about the environment too. That's right.
Even from a cost perspective too. It's
absolutely
14 cents to make a flyer, and then you got to mail it. Right?
Yeah. So I'm not saying we won't do flyers
no,
in the future,
but everything has its place. But it's just like dollar for dollar, you're at 14 to 20 cents by the time it's in someone's hand, and you have no data back on it. Like you have traffic through the door, but you have no data. So now you spend 14 to 20 cents on Facebook, which you spend, let's say the whole ad campaign costs you $1,400 through flyers, something like that. You spend $1,400 on Facebook. I'm getting raw data back. Who's seen it? Male, female, what age group, everything, right?
Your demo.
That's why Facebook, it's held to a higher standard actually. Yeah. So I just feel like you get a lot more for your money.
Yeah, and I think it's a difference between passive and active. Flyers are passive. Yeah. It's up to the person to open it. active is that, you physically know that there was a type of engagement with that particular thing.
That's a very type of engagement.
A type of engagement.
It's a really good way to say it.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah.
Because you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You don't know if they watched that video, if they scrolled by, did they pause, did they interact, did they like it.
Yeah.
You do know some of those things, but you don't understand as much about it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But just kind of to take it to the next step to the industry, if you want, like a segue.
Yeah, one more thing before we jump into that. You didn't really explain for the people who do not know what Inside You is.
Oh yeah, right. Good point. This is
So Inside You, inside what? So that's what people used to say. Inside what? You're gonna start what?
Yeah.
Yeah, how did the name come about? Let's start with that.
How did the name? Well, that was. I really didn't like my job at that time in construction. I was bored out of my mind, but I think it took like probably 3 weeks to think of that name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And with a name, you want to make sure it can encompass your whole business.
Yeah.
You want to make sure it doesn't limit you. You want to make sure it kind of encompasses also the kind of core mission that you want to do, ideally.
Yeah.
It's easier than if you have to apply the mission back to the name later. So for Inside, it's not Inside Me, it's Inside You. Okay? It's going to be about you and your problems. Inside You, there has to be an exit strategy as well. So, it's not Steve's Health Food, it's Inside You. So really anybody can take up this torch and use this company in the future to help people and make this world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And really that's what it is. It's just a vehicle that we use, that Dave and I, and we have a team of about 20 people now. It's a vehicle that we use to make a difference.
Yeah.
And there's lots of room, there's lots of ways, like we have lots of ideas about how we want to do it and all different ideas for the future, but it comes back to the customer as well. Inside You is it's like we have a whole army of people out there, recommending us. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's also a vehicle that the customers use to make their lives better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So at first it was a store. But I did name it Inside You Health Center, which is, the health center is kind of annoying. I really don't, so our trade name is Inside You.
Mm-hmm.
At first it's a store, and then it's kind of, we started this program once with like fruits and vegetables, where a company dropped off fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
And at that point, we had a few employees, a few people on the team, and it kind of changed into a community, right? And then a couple years ago, we're kind of now like a health and wellness company.
Yeah.
So it's
more
you kind of see, it's more than just a
So
store.
you moved into a new space to accommodate this?
No, that happened before that
Before
already.
that?
Yeah. We have to help people manage their lives
Okay.
rather than just sell product.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're aiming. So we have these ideas like 4 or 5 years ago, but it might take like 10 years to kind of put it where we want it to be.
Yeah.
So it's a health and wellness company.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's exactly right. And the idea here is that there has to be a piece of mentorship that is tied to whatever it is that you're doing in the health and wellness space, because anybody can take magnesium, for example. But the deeper question is, A, why do you need the magnesium in the first place? That's important. And then what are the companions to magnesium that will optimize its effect? So is that eating healthy? Is it exercising? Is it putting your phone down an hour before you go to bed? And then, you dose the 200, 300 milligrams of magnesium at that time if you have trouble sleeping. It's the ecosystem surrounding the person now that we're really interested in doing. So how do we work with the people that are in our network so that we can provide real value that you can't just go get somewhere else as well? Mm-hmm. So high tech, which means we really understand the deep physiological biochemistry of it. That's where I come in. That's the medicine part. But then it also has to be high touch. Who are you as a person, and how can we connect on that heart-to-heart level to make the science meaningful? The science isn't meaningful unless there's a personal connection with someone.
So that's the difference between buying magnesium at Walmart, buying magnesium at
100%. That's right.
It's the
That's
information
right.
you're going to get with it.
Absolutely. And the personal connection that you're going to get and some of the directions that you're going to get. Every once in a while we'll get somebody, and this happens more often, people that are on a keto diet, for example. And they come in and they have symptoms of the keto flu, and they want to know what they can do for this and that and everything else. Well, ketogenic diets deplete carnitine. So you give that person the acetyl-L-carnitine supplement, but you also explain to them at the same time like what's going on in their body. A, they feel heard. B, you've helped them solve a problem that not many people could. And you have a belly-to-belly, eyeball-to-eyeball meeting with that person.
Yeah.
So now it goes deeper than just this one thing. It's a synergism surrounding a person, helping them to get healthy and really play with their grandkids. That's why you do it. Or get up in the morning with a little buoyancy in your soul, right?
And I think most people, I mean, regardless of your price, but most people will pay more for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but see, that's an assumption that kind of bothers me, that it doesn't have to be more.
No, I know, that's why I said it that way. I'm not saying you guys are more expensive, I'm just saying most people will pay more, because I know I will. Like, I will. If it's good service, I mean, within reason, I don't care what I pay.
Yeah.
I
I also think it depends on the absolute ubiquity of what it is that you're selling. Because there is a point now in the marketplace where people are very well educated about specific things. It's a ubiquitous thing. So it doesn't matter really where you go, you can kind of pick it up. The internet is the great equalizer for information. So then we have to do another thing too. We also have to translate knowledge for people.
Yeah.
So we take that piece and we translate it and personalize it. That's the big piece.
Yeah.
So how do you take something that's ubiquitous, vitamin C you can get anywhere, but then bring it back to personalization? That's another part that's important. And I think that is where there's that margin for additional opportunities there.
And that's where medicine is going
That's
now.
where medicine is going.
So when you talk, we have this huge change in medicine happening, and technology related to medicine, where people are looking for more personalized healthcare.
Yeah.
Gene testing, studying your environment, your genetics, your job, like everything, right? And then tailoring, tailoring it to you. So, but we also have a change kind of in our industry, the tech as it relates to retail as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have consolidation in our industry. So as an industry matures, you get consolidation. Mm-hmm. So there's been stores that are started like, 1975, 1980 that were very successful up to about maybe 5 years ago. Yeah. And now we're seeing these, like, every year the change is happening faster and faster. So, when it comes to like marketing, people used to go to their store and ask what is echinacea, right? And now you can learn about echinacea everywhere, right? So, but there's some changes in like where people shop and how they shop, where they get their information from, maybe from here instead of the newspaper.
Yeah, that's right.
Where they get their information and how they get their information. So all of that has really changed in the last 2 years, especially.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes like, okay, just so you did something, in a certain way for the last 30 years, you have to be agile enough to change with that. And that's the really tricky question. So people say, oh, businesses looks good, right? Because a lot more people are buying natural supplements and food and things, but it's actually more challenging than it ever has been.
I agree.
It makes sense because there's so much information available. There's an abundance and no one really knows what to do with it.
Yeah.
Right? You go online and
the
the first thing what you think about when you say, okay, I'm selling a product and I'm trying to personalize it to the person, is to say, okay, I'm just going to provide them with the information. But no, the information is already there.
Yeah.
There's so much information that you got to figure out what information that individual needs out of everything that's available.
I call it TMIS. I actually have a name for it, too much information syndrome.
Right.
So, the thing is that now you have a customer that comes in and they've brought you the 14 different types of magnesium that are available in the market, what 3 influencers have said about all of those things, and now you have to be agile enough in your information to be able to field that question. And customers are coming in, people are coming in more savvy, they're more educated. So then you as a retailer and your team, you got to up your game.
Yeah.
You have to up your game.
Yeah.
But then passion, which is what we do in this industry, drives the acquisition of those new things. We do it because we like to, not because we have to.
And that's happening more and more in every industry.
Yeah.
People that are passionate are the ones that are staying.
Yeah, right.
The ones that have no passion are gone.
But that kind of, what's happening now, I think in a lot of industries, is that the retailer is really dangerous for the retailer not to become just a distribution company.
Yeah.
Okay, so the passionate people are the ones kind of sitting in rooms like this, and they are actually usually operating outside of a traditional retail environment, whether you're selling cars or, you know, supplements or anything really. We all have, like, if you're going to go buy something, you'll ask a friend and you'll ask somebody who's in the industry. So we all have influencers that we follow, and usually those are not working in a traditional store, right? So a lot of retail companies are just becoming, like, slowly becoming distribution companies unless they can really keep asking themselves that question: what are you trying to solve? How are you trying to help people? What's that's.
And I think that's back to your point where you just said the companies that have been in existence for over 25 years, they're going to die because they're trying to turn into a distribution company.
Yes.
And they're not going to be able to compete with Amazon, that is the master of distribution. Right? So
well, we saw this in the tech industry, in the original PC world, where everybody started to develop computers. So, you know, Acer, Gateway, Dell, you know, the list goes on. And then what happened? It wasn't a race to the top, it was a race to the bottom. Who could have the cheapest price with this particular computer? And then what happened was there was a gap in quality. And so Apple came in 2001, 2, 3 with the iPod and then the iPhone in 2007, but they maintained quality. So this was really interesting, and then they owned the whole piece. And I take a lot of my inspiration from Apple, whether you like them or not. They have a really nice ecosystem that they exist within. And so I don't want to duplicate everything that they're doing, but I do want to take some really good things that they're doing as a company and imbue those things. They're doing a lot of things right. And they almost went bankrupt and became the first $1 trillion company in the world. So to do that over the course of 15 years, I don't know that that's been done before. 100%. So there's something there. Success leaves clues.
I'll just speak more to that too. So the railroad company, when it was first built, their mission was not to build a railroad. Their mission was to connect people. Right? If they would have stayed with that mission, they would have invested in airplanes. But instead, they just became a railroad company. Right? And that comes the same thing what you're trying to say is just become a distribution company. When you stay with your mission, you look to new things.
Do you remember? I don't know if you know about Nintendo as a company.
A little bit,
Yeah. Do you know what their kind of first products were?
No.
Card games, different things. And then they hired this guy that was kind of like this weird inventor guy, and he started to make these things. And then slowly over time, the original company and the company over here, you can see the thread that connects it if you read the history. But if you were just to do a superficial look here and here, they don't even look like the same company. It almost like making leaf blowers, and then all of a sudden you're like making souffles. You know, they don't seem connected, but it is.
That's a real challenging thing to do, because you want to take like maybe 5 or 10% of your resources and invest it to go fishing somewhere else. But it's really tricky to kind of hold on to your core business and keep your core stakeholders happy while you go try something else out over here. And then if you do find something else over here that you really want to go to, you still have to transition everybody else over here without losing everybody.
I think you always have to put like 5 or 10%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's
case in point.
It is. Like 5-10% goes to that, and then they should know that going in. Your stakeholders.
Here's the transition that gets people just irritated, but then 5 years later you're like, oh, everybody's going there or whatever. Apple, I'll use this as an example. They removed the headphone jack.
Oh, everyone's mad.
Everybody's mad. Everybody's like totally upset about that because they went with a singular lightning connector, etc., etc. Most recent Samsung models, do they have a headphone jack or not? No.
It's all wireless now. Wireless earbuds. I wouldn't have it any other way now.
Well, it's the same. Everyone was happy that Samsung didn't do it, and
so
I
sometimes
have Samsung and I'm not using it anymore.
And so sometimes what we talk about in the back room when we're having these just talks, it's formal but informal meetings. We're just throwing ideas around. This is the idea. Sometimes you have to create something or do something that people don't even know that they need yet. And that's one of the things about entrepreneurism, where you have the foresight of the future. You have to massage those things and, as you said before, be agile enough to take action on it as well. You can't be beholden to a paradigm of the past. You got to look into the future too. Where's this going?
How do you guys? I've seen a couple of startups that are doing a lot of with AR. in the health space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any input on where that would be going?
Yeah, I personally do. Do you mind if I... AR.
No, go ahead.
So
What's AR? Sorry.
AR is basically virtual reality, but it's on a 2D screen, so it's called augmented reality, right? So this is where I see it going. When the AI wrapper that teaches the machine learning, so there's that two pieces that go along with it. Mm-hmm. When I hold my phone up in front of a product, this is where I see it going.
Okay.
What will happen there is that on my phone, what it'll do is it'll recognize the word, let's just go with magnesium. It'll recognize magnesium bisglycinate. Then it's going to pull up context based on the machine learning and show me what magnesium does. Or maybe a small video on YouTube of somebody that's in store that's talking about that magnesium product, for example, for AR.
Got it.
That's where I see part of things going. So it'll be a fast way to acquire information for the customer.
Okay.
For the vendors, what it'll allow them to do is have hyper-personalized and micro-local content. So now when I do hold my phone up and it brings a non-industry menu up here, magnesium does this, this, and this, I can also have a contextual piece that maybe the vendor can then have direct access to the consumer to educate them on why their particular brand, thing, whatever it is, would be beneficial to that customer. Now, privacy aside,
based on the heartbeat
or whatever, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So it's that big data piece. A lot of people get concerned about the privacy piece that goes along with it, but the reality is, it's kind of.
I think it's a publicity thing.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to put their pictures online. They're all online.
Yeah. Right.
You know
right.
What I mean?
We just
the
piece here is that I want to allow my data to be used with my consent. That's one, right? And I'm open to that. But number two, I also want another thing to do with data, and that is that I want to be paid when someone uses my data in some way. And this is part of the new paradigm of e-commerce where I should maintain ownership of my own data and my own behaviors and my own cookies.
So blockchain will do that because I think what they're going to do, they'll probably pay you in whatever it is.
Yeah.
For opting in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
That's probably what I mean. Something like that would make sense in that situation.
Yeah.
So you opt in, and it takes all your data, what you watch, what you do, this, your heartbeat, everything.
Yeah. But to your point about AR, I think that just to go back to that really quickly, it's an incredibly interesting idea because now I can actually hold my phone up, for example, and use advanced recognition that picks the store. It knows my location, then it shows me where I am, and then I can get it like Inside You was founded in 2009 by Steve Eltov, and I give a little bit of context about what that thing is. Or maybe I hold it up and then I serve up the menu at the cafe in real time on somebody's phone that they're just pulling down off the context of where they are in the store. Makes or something sense. Like that, right?
That goes very.
There's a lot of interesting opportunities, but here's the thing. We can't say that future's never going to exist. We actually have to look into the future or crystal ball or whatever that is and have the foresight to say that's likely going to take place and how can we get ready for it.
They want to tie it into Google Maps too.
What's that?
They want to tie it into Google Maps too.
Absolutely.
So you go along the road, you're like, oh, Inside You, let's go walk in virtually.
Yes.
And then you can virtually shop.
Yeah.
And then you can virtually look at the products and then that's,
Yeah, I think that really ties in the whole privacy thing too. Where AR is going to go, where VR is going to go. If you somehow understand the patterns of human behavior and what they actually want is not privacy but convenience, right? It's always about convenience. If I can save that 10-second thing in what I need to do, and it can be automated regardless of what I have to give up, I will do it. Yeah. I might not for the next month, but in 2 months I will because I see my neighbor doing the same. So. Yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes. Yeah, definitely. And health is probably one of the first industries that will take it on.
Well, absolutely. And then
I see major benefits for you guys for that. Yes, I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah. Like, we could get totally lost behind too.
Yeah, for sure. You can. For sure. But I'm just thinking, like, people's heartbeats, like with their activity levels, their footsteps, everything. Like, if you have that data in front of you, you're more equipped to help somebody.
Well, that's where it comes. Where hopefully we can make this transition. We're into more service where if you're having sleeping problems, you don't just come in and buy some melatonin. You might become part of a sleep program where we guarantee you results, and we're going to follow you around.
Yeah.
Make you wear, a device and follow you around and see, figure out the 20 different reasons why you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
And actually make a difference.
Sir, you had pizza 7 minutes in a row. That's probably
right. Or you had your last coffee at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The half-life of caffeine's 9 hours. No wonder you're awake at 1 o'clock.
Or your wife was gone and you didn't go to bed on time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's what happens in my house anyways.
Well, you want to touch a bit more on the industry?
Yeah, so we also should tell where we think it's going and what
what's 5 years out?
What we're doing right now. So we've so everything has become a commodity in our industry. It has become or is becoming a commodity.
Okay.
Even customer service is a commodity. People kind of copy it, right? So you have to solve problems. But so we have moved from our original location, which was about 1,500 square feet, into we are currently moving into a building that's about 11,500 square feet.
Wow.
In Woodstock. It's an old century home, built in 1860.
Beautiful.
And it was this close to being ripped down, and we basically just saved it in time.
Yeah, that's great.
So we're doing about 3,000 square feet of retail, and then about 10 new things, including a cafe, smoothie bar, fresh fruits and vegetables, some bulk food, and then on the medical side, this is where Dave's most of Dave's responsibility is. He's going to build a whole medical wellness clinic.
Okay.
So that includes right now 2 float tanks, saltwater float tanks. We just started that a couple months ago. So you're floating in this big bathtub whirlpool. 6 inches of water, and then we added 5 inches of salt on top of that. So it's about 11 inches thick.
Okay.
And it's salty, just right to the top. So but you're in this enclosed pod, dark.
Yeah. It's like a cabin.
Deprivation pod.
It is. Yeah. And so to speak about that, it's called, in the scientific literature, it's called REST, which stands for Restricted Environmental Stimulation Therapy or sensory deprivation. We know, so to answer your question, what we were sold was a bill of goods that said technology and the advancement of these things was going to make our lives more convenient. And in a lot of ways, technology has added some value to our lives. However, people now, right now, September 2019, are way stressed out.
Yep.
They're inundated in their external world with so many stimuli, whether it's the phones we use, whether it's the TV we watch, whether it's the traffic we're driving in, whether it's the cacophony of information on the internet, whether it's whatever it is, we're all stressed out.
Productivity levels go down.
How do you shut it off? How do you hit the pause button right now? Honestly, how do you do that? So what we decided to do, it's expensive for Woodstock. The cabins are expensive. We have 2. Woodstock's 42,000 people, but we had to do the right thing. And the right thing is to give people a place, one of the places where you can do this. Going on a nature walk might be another one. Doing some meditation might be another one. But this is one where you can get in, close the door, and really lower your exposure on all your senses to everything in the external world. Plus you absorb magnesium in your skin, and that elevates your serum magnesium levels, helps you relax, and at the same time allows you to disconnect for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, an hour and a half.
I've done it 4 times.
Right. And it's a
it.
phenomenal
It's
experience.
The first time was a little odd. You don't know what you're doing.
Right.
The second time was but the 4th time
Yes.
was, honestly, it really does relax you. You
It
get
does.
out and you're just calm.
So there's two studies that have been done now in 2018 in the scientific literature. One was published in PLOS, which is the Proceeding of the Library of Science. And what they found was that it is the most powerful that they know. And when I say powerful, it's actually the opposite of powerful. It's not powerful.
Right.
Anxiolytic. So anxiety is something that's just exploding all over North America. People are just anxious. They feel it in their bodies too. They have panic attacks, anxiety, everything. And so what the float tanks have done is actually created a microenvironment in 30 to 60 minutes where it lowers the resting sympathetic nervous system tone for people. So now we're doing brain scans and body scans for people where we can see that float tanks actually have a durable and measurable effect in the scientific literature. And I think that you're going to see these as treatment places for anxiety. They're going to start popping up because the science is coming of age now, and it's really exciting. So that, I mean, that's another thing that we're doing, right? Because now you can float recreationally. Oh, hey, I just want to, or you can float medically. I have a diagnosable condition of anxiety per a GAD-7, for example, Generalized Anxiety Disorder Questionnaire. And then I can go and do this, and I can measure the results over time to lower that so I don't have to take anxiolytic medication, because that only has so many legs. Like, we have to disconnect if we're going to reconnect with ourselves, for example. And that's one of the things that float tanks do. Like, it's good science, not just like relaxing. There's actually science there.
So that's one part.
Yeah, sorry, I'm waxing along. I'm passionate about it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
We haven't even got to the clinic yet.
Right.
It's actually on the other side of the wall. So in the clinic, I actually kind of envisioned it to be a lot more medical, and Dave is bringing a team of like naturopaths and osteopaths and massage therapists and different health related activities.
A whole allied healthcare team, full care around someone.
But it's kind of taken on more of a health and beauty kind of. I think so. We're gonna put a whole organic spa in there as well.
Yeah.
And that's coming on board like in the next couple of months.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So where can they find you?
79 Montclair Drive in Woodstock. So that's one location. But just to be clear, though, we do have two other locations. One in Norwich, and then one on the other side of Toronto, Cobourg, Ontario. We can come back to that in a minute. But so we have 3 retail locations and an online store at insideyou.ca.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can book appointments with naturopaths there, or book a float, or it's all done through there. Yeah.
That's cool. I'm definitely going to sign up on that one.
Yeah, we can film you too.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
So
have some cool content.
Make it real dark so you can't see anything.
Right.
Infrared camera, right?
Pass.
I think I just want to revisit your comment about convenience. That's one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did, and did it right.
Okay.
How can I lower someone's busyness by creating an environment where they can get a lot of things done at the same location?
Right.
That's part of the position that we're trying to do. So, people like I still cut my hair. It may not look like it because I don't have anything up here, but I cut other things, right? So my point is, like, everybody still has to cut their hair. You have to go get it done somewhere. Some people like to get manicures and pedicures. I like to get pedicures. That's one thing that I like to do, but I find it incredibly relaxing too at the same time. Plus, self-care is something that we're learning is really important for us to do, and no one else is going to do it for you, right? So you have to do self-care. You have to put your position in a place where you can get self-care. So if we can do massage and osteopathy and naturopathy, and maybe bring a medical doctor on at some point as part of an integrative team, then have this hair, the hair idea, but then we use really natural products. We use natural products in the spa, and we reflect our brand position, which now is Wellness Reimagined. So
we should talk about that.
Yeah, it's not just the supplement that we're talking about now. It's your complete experience as a human being on being well. Because remember, disease or dis-ease or health is not the absence of dis-ease. It's actually something that's very active, that has a vibration associated with it. You want to express vitality, not just be not sick.
Yeah.
Like, right, you can be not sick, but still wake up in the morning and feel like crap in a sense, right? So you want to have that childlike exuberance for life again. And that's one of the things that we want to do, is like surround you with a whole bunch of stuff so that you can actually do that. And then eventually go teach someone else to do it, and go teach someone else to do it. So we want to help educate people as well as provide them with services. So it's that whole piece.
Yeah. So at each of our locations, you're going to get really good, honest direction about health. Really good, honest advice. But then in our Woodstock location, we're just trying out this to do something totally different. So we have retail and medical, a sense of community. You can come in and have a drink or hang out if you want. And then combine that with education. We're going to start doing a lot of content creation, things like this, panel discussions, vendor content creation, and staff and customer content creation if we want, if they want to as well. So those 4 things, along with fresh food.
Yeah.
So the fresh food has to be right in your face.
What's the concept behind the fresh food? Because I heard something about it.
Yeah.
Although I don't really know what exactly.
Well,
it is.
if you don't have good food in front of you, you're gonna eat bad food.
I know.
Yeah. So just as a place to work, it's good to have fresh food on hand in your workplace, right? So bare minimum for us, to have a good place to work, we need to have, a blender so we can make a smoothie.
Yeah.
We need to have a coffee machine so we can have good coffee, right? So if we're gonna do that for ourselves, why not do it for everybody else? So now we have a smoothie bar, we have a place where we're doing food prep so you can eat in, you can take out.
Okay.
And then where are we going to get the supplies for this? We want to use local organic farmers as much as possible, so we bring them in. So now we might as well sell the produce as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what is the concept behind the food? I'm just thinking for myself, a little bit selfish now. I think my office pretty close to you guys. And every day I go out, especially for lunches. I have my breakfast at home, but the lunches are always terrible, Go all over the place. Is it open all day? Can you come in to grab food at any given time?
Yeah. And this is the thing will change. It really depends on what you want.
Yeah.
So we'll have some, some good smoothie recipes, which will change over time.
Yeah.
But what gets cooked in the kitchen and the people that we bring in to cook will change based on your request.
Wow.
So if you and all your followers want to have gluten-free food, then we have to make gluten-free food. But if you really like your farmer's kale, then we have to, the Boetekol, then we have to make Boetekol.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? Where do you guys see yourself in 5 years?
That's a really, really good question. And I think that I'll reserve the right maybe to not to prognosticate overly much on that.
Let's take a stab.
It's
okay to be wrong.
It actually, so in terms of specifics, I'll give you, the idea of the vision. The vision is that as the world becomes more complex and more complicated, and we're busier, because I actually see that happening. I don't see people kind of dialing back. There's a whole bunch of things that are contributing to that. We have to provide an environment that creates, we want to create an environment where people can be the best version of themselves. Said another way, we want to optimize human biology and optimize human metabiology. Metabiology is like the mind-body connection, okay? So in 5 years, our actual core mission doesn't change, but how we deploy it may.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. So it may be that building or something. It may be an expansion of services. It may be a reduction in hyper-personalization of services. But whatever it is that we decide to do, it will have one common characteristic. And that common characteristic is, how do we optimize vitality in somebody so that they can have the highest quality of life for the highest quantity of years? That's the point that we want to get to. That is what it is. Because frankly, guys, I want that for myself, right? I want to feel good every day when I wake up in the morning. So once I learn those things about myself, why wouldn't I share it with somebody else? And if business is about solving problems, and that's a problem of the human condition, that's something that I want to continue to do. Because making the world a better place is important.
Very powerful.
That's what it is.
It's awesome.
Cool. What were some of the challenges that you had but didn't see beforehand throughout the last 5-6 years? Lessons that you learned?
Me is one of them, because A, I'm always late. B, I have these deadline problems, but he knows how to work with me, which is really good. So I think that in the same way that I've been a help to the business, I've also been a challenge sometimes.
We both learn off each other.
Yeah, we both learn off each other. I mean, that's the thing. And I think that a challenge would be learning how to take two totally different independent personalities and figuring out a way to make them a synergy.
Yeah.
Figuring out that sometimes, it's okay to be wrong. That's something else. It's okay to get it wrong and to move on, because I think
mistakes.
Absolutely.
From my position as like the founder, the biggest challenge is also always being able to grow with the company. So that if you're
as an individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you always have to really, really take a look at yourself and be willing to replace yourself if you can't grow into the position you need to be in.
Yeah.
So that's really, we have to really analyze yourself. So, the first 5 years a business is most likely to fail. The next 5 years are most likely to run out of money. And then the next 5 years they're most likely to lose their culture. So we're sitting right at year 10 right now with no money and lots of culture.
Yeah. We're a self-fulfilling prophecy right now. That's what's happening.
So that's kind of No, you always have these, the cash flow things, but if you grow too fast, it's very, very difficult on yourself. Like I've tried to kind of, grow slowly and steadily so that we can be there for people and that we can, So people look to us like we have all our stuff together. If we're owners of a health and wellness company. We must eat perfect. We must live perfect. And so it's really important for us to really, have our stuff together and, get help when we don't. So, we have to maintain that image, not really an image, but we have to maintain that.
I would say that really what you do, and I think this is becoming more important as time goes on, you become a living manifestation of your message. You have to become the very message that you're preaching to people, because people can smell that BS from a mile away now. Are they going to do that? No. It's been oversold.
Yeah. I've noticed that too. Like the more videos I watch, the more stuff. As soon as the authenticity is not there, I see it right away.
100%.
Instantly. That guy's not into it. He doesn't know it.
Or he's sold out, or whatever that phrase that we use is.
And that could be the biggest challenge for any business, right? So you're 5, 10, 10 years, you might have lots of energy, but maybe that wears out after a while. So you need to bring new people in and new ideas into your company and you have to really realize when you need to step back and take some time off and let somebody else do something. Right? Sometimes you need a sabbatical where you let somebody else kind of, so you can build a place, you can decorate it, but you have to let somebody else even rip some walls down once in a while and make it how they want to.
Before we wrap it up, I'd like to ask one more question. 3 tips that you give anyone who would want to start their own business. Now, before you jump into that one, I really want to tell everyone who's listening at home, the point that you mentioned before is providing the value up front without any expectation in return. I think that is, for myself, we're doing that concept here. We're not trying to get anything out of it. It's hard to give without, getting anything back. But I believe that is one of the core things, especially in this world, to think about. Don't give, whether it's an article or you make a video, don't try to sell the audience. Give without expectation. That's one thing that you shared, and I'd like everyone really to think about that one. What are your
3 tips? Okay, I had to break those down really quickly here. Number 1, you have to find something that you like doing. Number 2, you have to find a problem that needs to be solved. And number 3, you need to keep learning. You have to keep growing personally. If you're not growing, if you're not learning, somebody else is going to pass you and solve that problem better.
What he said.
Very true.
What he said.
I concur. That's perfect.
That's it. Awesome.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Been a great time. Thank you for being on.
Thanks for the invitation.
Episode 12 of the Canadian Houses podcast, and we'll be back next week.